silent meditation. And if we could all keep our public safety and our front lines at the hospitals and our nurses and doctors and our fire department and our police department and anyone that's involved in this pandemic, and also to keep our families safe. And so if we could just ponder on that for a moment, I'd appreciate it. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to ask Izzy Batoka if he would like to start us with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
nation under God, indivisible,
Liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I believe David Marks would like to have a point of privilege right now to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Towson and all of Baltimore County lost a remarkable community leader last week with the death of Adelaide Bentley at the age of 91. Adelaide championed the saving of East Towson in the 1970s when many thought it should be cleared. Today, Towson and the historical African-American enclave is a thriving community, and I just wanted to recognize this remarkable woman in Baltimore County history.
Thank you, and she will be truly missed. I would just like to take a moment to remind, especially the participants, to please mute yourself and unmute yourself when you're going to speak. Make sure that your video is on so we can see you. And then when you're done with your testimony, to please mute yourself again. Okay, everyone? And we're making history here, having our first county council meeting remotely. And I hope it's successful. And please, for anyone that's the participants, please bear with us as we do this for the first time. Is there a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of March 16th, 2020?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, and the emergency meeting, March 31st, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Journal is approved. Now we'll have the enrollment of bills, and there are no bills for this evening. Mr. Secretary, will you please now read the bills for introduction?
Madam Chair, first is Bill 26-20, Current Expense Budget Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This is actually an emergency bill similar to the other bills that you will consider this evening. And just a clarification, it will be on an expedited schedule as well. The work session will be April 14th, and this bill will be voted on at your next meeting on April the 20th.
Thank you.
Bill 27-20, Current Expense Budget Continuum of Care. Bill 28-20, Expense Budget Maryland Opioid Rapid Response. Bill 29-20, Current Expense Budget Immunization Action Plan. And Bill 30-20 is sponsored by all council members, and this is your 2020 Basic Services Maps Adoption Bill. Those remaining bills will be on the regular schedule and will be voted on at the beginning of May.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to Bill 1020, and we have Colonel Jones to testify. Colonel Jones, we see you, but we don't. There you are.
Good evening, Madam President. Baltimore County, we actually received a federal grant award for $277,762 from the U.S. Department of DOJ, their Office of Victim of Crime. Department is seeking the council approval to accept and appropriate the funds for FY20 to assist department in establishing a victim specialist program. The goal of the victim specialist program is to ensure the victim of crime and their family receive trauma-informed care fairly and respectfully from the department members, with a collaborative community-based service program integrating the health department, state's attorney's office, and other advocacy groups. This would actually assist in the victim's recovery and foster care within the criminal justice system. The police department, we're looking to hire one part-time human service program manager would oversee the victim specialist program for the duration of the grant, which ends in September 2022. By the county council accepting and appropriating this funds, there will be no cost or expense to Baltimore County to establish this specialist victims program.
Thank you, Colonel. Are there any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll on Bill 10-20?
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Clark? Aye. Soka?
Aye.
Hatch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Jones, unmute yourself.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 10-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill 11-20. This is a bill sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins, excuse me, entitled Swimming Pools.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Bill 11-20 has to do with swimming pools over 2,500 square feet that are public swimming pools, which means they're in hotels, motels, health clubs, marinas, all sorts of public pools under 5 foot, and to not have a lifeguard. Out of 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland, we, Baltimore County, are the only jurisdiction that still has this law on the books. All the other jurisdictions have done away with lifeguards at these shallow pools. Several things are happening here. So let's say a major motel in my district, say in the White Marsh area, a family goes onto their website and they see that they have a swimming pool and maybe a hot tub, and they book that for the weekend. And whether they're out of town or local, and they get to the hotel and they get in their room and they unpack and they put their bathing suits on, and then they go down to the swimming pool, and the swimming pool is off limits because there's no lifeguard. With having this law in place, it's having patrons not be able to enjoy themselves, and the hotels never know when a lifeguard is going to call out sick or not show up. So this bill is not saying we're not going to have lifeguards anymore. What this bill is enabling us to do is when a lifeguard doesn't show up, it means we don't have to close the pool. Now, for instance, for my district, the hotels are telling me that they are losing some patrons to Harford County. Harford County is only 7.25 miles from the White Marsh area, and folks know that they don't have to have a lifeguard there, and the pools are always going to be open. This even applies to adults. It's not just for children. You could be on a business trip and want to take a swim before work or after your meetings, and if there's no lifeguard, you are totally off limits to the pool. So the industry feels like it's very unfair to them. We're the last jurisdiction that still has this in place, and we're losing business. We're not trying to take jobs away from lifeguards. They will still have many opportunities to lifeguard. It's just we don't want the hotel, motel industry and anyone else to have to turn people away because they don't have a lifeguard on duty. Now, with this bill, there are certain things in place. They will have signs, swim at your own risk, no one under the age of 18. They will have to use a key card. I'll use, for instance, Ocean City, Maryland. There's more pools, indoor and outdoor, in Ocean City, Maryland than any place in the state of Maryland, and they do not have this law on the books. They still use lifeguards, but if one doesn't show up, they're still allowed to use the pool. So I've gotten a lot of mail supporting this bill from the industry and from individuals. And to be quite frank, I think that more and more parents should take more responsibility for watching their family members and their children at these pools. And I would like to see us do away with the law. So I hope you will support Bill 1120. And I believe that there are amendments, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Madam Chair. There are two amendments or two sets of amendments. The first set of amendments is sponsored by yourself, Councilwoman Bevins. And the first set of amendments would clarify the definition of a semi-public swimming pool. The term is defined in the bill, but your amendment would clarify or explain it further that it is indeed a swimming pool with water surface area under 2,500 square feet and a maximum depth of 5 feet that is located within or outside of a facility. Number that is one, a temporary or transient dwelling, including a hotel or motel, when its members, when the pool is used by its residents. Yeah. Or you've also put in another amendment that would say that would include a spa or health club when it is used by its members and guests who are at least 16 years old. And then you've also sponsored an amendment that would essentially say that the exception to the lifeguard requirement does not absolve a semi-public swimming pool operator from complying with all of the other provisions in the swimming pool subtitle in the same manner as a public swimming pool, such as maintenance, chemical upkeep, if they wanted to expand a pool or change the configuration. All the requirements that are currently in that subtitle, even a semi-public swimming pool would need to comply with all of that in the same manner as a public swimming pool. So that is the amendments that you have sponsored for the bill.
And I believe Mr. Catch has an amendment.
He does. Do you want to do them all together, or do you want to vote? You can.
Okay, yeah, we can do them separate. I did want to add, since you just went over that our health department is still going to be very active in inspecting the pools and taking complaints on pools, whether, they're dirty, they're unchlorinated, whatever those complaints normally are, our health department will still be in charge of inspecting those pools. That hasn't changed at all with this bill.
And that's right. And just to go to the next one just quickly, Mr. Katz's amendments, which are also sponsored by Mr. Marks and Mr. Crandall, would also state that for a semi-public swimming pool that is located outdoors, that the minimum height for an enclosure, such as a fence, including gates, instead of the normal 4 feet for a swimming pool, it would be increased to not less than 5 feet. And he would also move to change slightly the signage at the end of the bill where it says should not swim without adult supervision. Mr. Catch's amendment would say that that a person may not swim without adult supervision. So those are Mr. Catch's 2 amendments.
Okay, and I also wanted to go back to the amendment for health clubs and spas. The reason we suggested 16 for that instead of 18 like the swimming pools, because you can be 16 and join a health club. So we thought it would be fair to have 16 at the health clubs and keep it at 18 at the swimming pools. Is there a motion to approve just the first set of amendments to Bill 11-20? I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Is Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll on the first set of amendments?
So, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is Izzy. I had a comment. So on the amendments, I'm comfortable with some of the amendments, and I want to speak at the appropriate time. It's a little different doing it remotely, but I have concerns about the general bill itself, but I did have a question about one of the amendments, and I guess it's for the Secretary. In Councilman Catch's amendment, the changing of the word should to may, does that strengthen it? Or I wasn't sure the intent of that. Was that to strengthen the language?
Changing it to shall, correct?
No,
May not.
may.
May.
It says may not.
May
Then
not.
Shall
Right.
not.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I spent about an hour the other day looking at the difference between shall, should, and may. And I think that this is the best one for this situation. So in other words, you may not, without a parent, if you're under 18, you may not use the pool without a lifeguard. So Mr. Bostwick and I went back and forth on this. I know should is not the one to do. Good. So I understand. Because I originally had mentioned shall.
My concern is that I've got two concerns with the bill, the core bill itself. One relates to public safety and one relates to jobs. Although I believe that the bill is going to pass, but I'm going to vote with what I believe is the right thing to do. Having said that, I want to make sure that the amendments are as strong as possible in terms of public safety and in terms of keeping lifeguards at work, because that's my primary concern. Is we received, there are two: public safety, that's in relation to drowning. Drowning can happen in an instant. It doesn't really matter the depth of the pool. There was
It can happen with a lifeguard.
certainly can, but I think that the chances are you have someone that's trained in rescue. And so with a lifeguard there, I think it lessens the chance that a drowning could occur. And I also think that we need to create as many jobs as we can. We received somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 letters. I think mostly came from lifeguards that were in opposition to the bill, and we received 12, mostly from the industry that were supportive of the bill. So I'm going to weigh in to strengthen the bill and the amendments, but when we vote on the bill itself, I am going to raise those two concerns, and I just want to do that in an appropriate way.
Okay. I do want to address that as far as the lifeguards and jobs. Again, we're not eliminating lifeguards. I received about 30 plus emails from lifeguards and the business that usually employs them and trains them. And we explained to them that they would still have jobs. It's very, very hard for, especially a hotel, to have a lifeguard, especially during the school year, in the morning or in the afternoon. Very, very hard to find a lifeguard to come and sit, and they just sit and there could be nobody in the pool. They're all in school, they're working other jobs. They have no problem usually in the evening and the weekends and the holidays having lifeguards, but this is what is hurting their business. One of the hotels in the White Marsh area told me that when families come and the pool was closed, because they don't know if the pool is going to be closed or open until they get there and find out that there's not a lifeguard, they refund their money. They have to refund the full amount of their stay. And, you know, that's really detrimental to a business. And it also makes you think, well, I don't want to go back there again because there may or may not be a lifeguard. And we're actually losing patrons to other jurisdictions, hotels. I'm all about safety. Of course, I have children and grandchildren, so I worry about safety. Myself, and we've received letters from other jurisdictions that have done this that said it's been fine since we've done it. We still use lifeguards. We haven't had a drowning, and this is working. And what took you so long? Because we are the last jurisdiction to do this. So I understand your concerns, Mr. Patoka, and I've given this a lot of thought. This has been a year and a half working with not just the industry, but, you know, speaking with a lot of people on this, and you know, that's why I sponsored it. Okay, are we ready to vote on the amendments, or did someone else have a question or comment? Okay, Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Kendall?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk? Aye. Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Hatch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Very good. Okay, so the first set of amendments to Bill 1120 has passed. Now we'll look at the second amendment from Mr. Catch, Councilman Catch.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I explained the first one changing should not to may not. And, you know, I think that we have an obligation to strengthen this law as much as we can, since we're going to allow people to swim without a lifeguard. And, well, I don't want to get in definitions of should and must and may, but anyhow, I talked about that before. The second part of it really deals with my experience as a middle school teacher teaching 11, 12, and 13-year-olds. And, you know, I can assure you with the 4-foot fence, someone 11, 12, 13, 14 will be able to climb the fence and get into the pool, which is why I have an amendment to increase the required height of the fence around the pools, of course, the outdoor pools, to 5 feet. Look, I know as well as everyone else that if someone is bound and determined to get it into the pool, you're probably not going to stop them. But I think that faced with a 5-foot fence, that will discourage people. I looked at the fence from one of the high schools in my district, and indeed it is 5 feet tall, the one that was electrified. Of course, electrifying the fence would keep them out. But so, no, only kidding.
No comment.
This is done by, this was Delaney when the fence, due to some issue, was electrified. So this is the reason why I've put in the 5-foot requirement. As far as the fences that are there, I see no reason why an extra foot can't be added to it. I just think that, you know, the nightmare is that we read in the paper that's, you know, a child, 11, 12-year-old drowned. And well, how did they get in there? They went over the fence. And so I just felt as it was our obligation to make sure the law is as strong as it can possibly be without being overbearing. I'd had another suggestion, which I did not pursue. So anyhow, Madam Chair, members of the council, that is what my amendment's all about.
Thank you, Councilman. I do understand where you're coming from. I do think that if a child wants to get over, a teenager wants to get over a fence, whether it's 4 foot or 5 foot, they will do so. But I do understand you wanting to go the extra mile to make sure that we're taking all precautions, although it's adding another expense. I don't know what that will be. Some may already have a 5-foot fence around them. I'm not sure, but I believe that Maryland state law requires a 4-foot fence. Is that right, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And individuals have to have a 4-foot fence around their own private pools.
Right. So I will support your amendment, Councilman Katchen. Thank you. Okay. Are there any comments or questions on the second amendment?
Yes, Madam Chair. I have a question for Councilman Katch. I guess my point is, if we believe that a kid could jump over a 4-foot fence if he or she wanted to get in, I don't see why we should burden people who currently have a 4-foot fence, make them move it to 5-foot fence, and then think we're doing something. What, in my opinion, what we will be doing is adding an undue regulation onto the property owner. I mean, if we care that much, if you don't want kids to get in, let's make the fences 8 foot. Let's put barbed wire over them. Because I mean, at some point, you know what I mean? If somebody has a 4-foot fence, and then we're going to tell them make it 5 feet. Well, don't see where that 1 foot is going to make a difference.
Well, first of all, I had really thought of 6 feet originally, but thinking of the height of teens and, as I said, middle school kids, I think that they would have to become creative to jump a 4-foot fence if you're 11 or 12 years old. But I think a 5-foot fence, I think it would be a lot more difficult. Look, I know that if someone is determined to get in, they will get in. I know that. But I just think since the county's going to apparently change the law to allow swimming without lifeguards, and we're saying we only want children with parents, I feel an obligation to to require a 5-foot fence. I think that it will serve as a deterrent. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The question is to what extent, and I understand what you're saying completely.
I guess another question I have about the fence. And I apologize. I didn't want to, try to push it too far. But currently today, right now, as we are sitting here,
Yes.
a semi-public pool that has a 4-foot fence, and they close the pool, and there's no lifeguard. They close the pool. What is going to change? I mean, right now, people can climb the fence. And by the way, I think it's important. I don't know how long people remember climbing a fence, but you don't jump the fence, you climb the fence. You take your feet, you stick it into part of the opening in the fence, you grab on and you climb and you climb. And you can climb 4 feet, you can climb 10 feet, you can climb 12 feet. You get to the top, you lean over, you go over the fence, and then you come down the way you went up. I guess the point I'm making is people who want to get in the fence, whether it be 4 feet or 5 feet, it's not going to make a big difference. And I think the only thing we will be doing is telling some property owner out there, and I don't even know how many there are, perhaps Mr. Boswick would know, but the only thing we will be doing is telling some property owner, by the way, you don't have to have a lifeguard all the time, but you got to raise the fence from 4 feet to 5 feet. And if I was a property owner, I'd be thinking, what is that all about?
Where is the semi-public swimming pool located? I mean, is there any water in the pool?
Well, sure, there's water in the pool, and I think that,
No, I'm talking about the one that Councilman Jones is referring to. I don't know what pool you're talking about. Is it a county-owned pool or what?
I tell you the truth, I don't know how many semi-public pools are out there that have a fence around it, but if there is one, it currently has a 4-foot fence.
No, but you said
And if you have one today and you do not have a lifeguard, then you close that pool. You say the pool is closed.
Yes.
And the 4-foot fence today, somebody could climb that fence and get in the pool. I don't condone it. I don't think it's right, but it could happen. And I just don't see. And I'm sort of done with this right now. I just think that we may be adding an undue regulation or burden on a property owner just because we want to move the fence from 4 feet to 5 feet. And then I think it is this type of bills causes people to say the government doesn't do anything but add undue regulation and burden on the small business owner. This is the type of bill where people say, hey, we need to cut regulation. We need to reduce these regulations because these laws don't make sense. But that's the libertarian in me talking.
I hear you loud and clear, Councilman Jones. Actually, because listen, these kids that are climbing or jumping, whether it's a 4-foot fence or a 5-foot fence, they're doing it in the middle of the night when they're not supposed to be there. They're trespassing anyway, and they're just looking for trouble. I mean, kids are not going to be no one's going to do that while the hotel is open and people are outside, inside, can view the pool. These are the kind of things that would happen in the middle of the night. And yes, I agree. They're going to do it whether it's 4 foot, 5 foot, or 6 foot.
Madam Chair, so it would be the operator's choice. So the operator could keep the 4-foot fence if there is a lifeguard in place. If the operator then chooses to operate without a lifeguard, then Councilman Catch's amendment would require that operator to have a 5-foot fence. So it's really up to the operator in terms of how they want to operate the public pool.
That is actually not the case.
That's not the case?
No, that the amendment that is before you would, or any semi-public swimming pool located outdoors would increase the height from 4 to 5 feet.
Will you say that again?
The amendment states that the statute that we're talking about states generally for a swimming pool enclosure, and this is any pool that is required to have an enclosure outdoors, such as a public swimming pool or something along those lines. A swimming pool enclosure, including gates, may not be less than 4 feet above the underlying ground. That is the general requirement. And we have inserted language that says, except that for a semi-public swimming pool located outdoors, the enclosure, including gates, may not be less than 5 feet above the underlying ground.
Right.
Mr. Bostwick?
So it doesn't distinguish between whether you have a lifeguard or not.
Was that Councilman Catch's intent to give an operator that choice?
No, my intent is if you're not going to have a lifeguard on duty, then I think you need a 5-foot
Yes,
fence. I mean, and now I understand from what Mr. Bostwick had said, that's not exactly what the amendment states. So, there is a way, Councilman Patoka, to amend the amendment to, there has to be a 5-foot fence if there's no lifeguard on duty.
Well, Mr. Catch is offering his amendment because it hasn't been moved and seconded yet. If you wish for it to state, except that for a semi-public swimming pool located outdoors without a lifeguard on duty, then the enclosure, including gates, may not be less than 5 feet above the underlying ground. I can do that, and I've just done that if that's what you'd like.
Well, are we moving the amendments now or what? I mean, I'll move.
Before we move an amendment, Madam Chair, may I ask the Secretary a question?
Yes, Councilman Crandall.
Thank you. Mr. Bostwick, correct me if my assumption was incorrect. In that, my assumption was that Councilman Catch's amendment, which I co-sponsored, that the amendment for the fence pertained to the same type of pool that Councilwoman Bevan's bill applies to, and that is a pool of 25 square foot in space and volume or whatever, with a depth of 5 foot.
That is correct.
And the amendment applies only to an indoor or outdoor pool, 2,500 square feet or more, 5 foot depth.
Well, probably not indoor, because I think the indoors have.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that
Right.
as far as the fence go, but your whole amendment package goes to Councilwoman Bevan's bill, which
Correct.
pertains to pools of a certain size and depth.
So I think what Councilman Patoka is saying is if a hotel motel decides that they're going to continue to hire lifeguards and they don't want the liability, that they shouldn't have to put a 5-foot fence up, because they have no intention to open when there's no lifeguard on duty.
Well, can I just add that if you have a lifeguard on duty and it's the evening, right, and the pool is closed anyway, that shouldn't pertain to this anyway. I mean, the lifeguard's not there because the pool's not open, so why should they have a 5-foot fence?
Well, to keep people out. I mean, to keep.
I'm just saying the pool is closed anyway. I think we're missing this. This is all about when people are there and want to swim.
Right.
We're not talking about the kids that are looking for trouble and, hopping fences and getting in hotel pools. And I don't know how often that happens, if it happens at all. I'm not sure. Look, I want to be safe. I want to make sure that people are safe. But again, I think we are putting an extra expense. Now we're saying, okay, if you don't have a lifeguard, you can still open your pool, but now you have to tear up your 4-foot fence, put in your 5-foot fence.
You have to add another foot. You don't have.
Now you add a foot. Like I'm
Oh,
looking.
I've seen them. They're not pretty, but it's not pretty, but you still could add a foot.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm not an expert in the fencing industry by any means. 4-foot fence, whether it be a picket fence, a wrought iron fence, or a chain link fence, standard sizes are 4 and 6. I'm not aware of a 5-foot fence that is available on the market. Now, I could be wrong in that, But I also have to say that I'm racking my brain trying to, in just my sort of mental inventory of semi-public pools. I'm thinking about Padonia Swim Club, Sparrows Point Country Club. Um,
Now, those are public pools. Sorry to interrupt. Those
It's
are,
deeper with diving boards, correct?
So they all had, right, they wouldn't be subject to this because and I'm thinking about Charlemont Apartments here in Dundalk. They all already have large fence. I'm trying to think of a pool at a hotel, motel, or anywhere else in Baltimore County that is 5 feet deep of that size, which is substantial, that is not surrounded by what would be considered a security fence 6 foot high or higher. I'm just racking my brain to try to think of one.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Yes, Councilman Marks, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I understand Councilman Jones's point about climbing, but I just looked this up here. 4 feet is 48 inches. The average height of a child at 48 inches is around 5 or 6 years old. 5 feet is 60 inches. The average age at that point is 10 years old. I think the point.
60 inches.
Yeah, 60. Yeah. There you go. I mean, I think the point with this amendment was to create a deterrent.
Right.
By adding that foot, you're taking that opportunity away from a large number of kids. I mean, by the time you're 10 years old, I think you have a greater self-awareness. I
Yes.
think that's the point Wade was making, is it creates a deterrent.
And
I-
Madam Chair,
Yes.
distinguish between the idea of someone trespassing into a pool that's closed is different than what we're talking about.
Correct.
I think that we're talking about an operator that's operating during the hours that they've identified as being operating. And so that operator, as we talked about this amendment or the modification of this amendment, would be that if you choose to operate without a lifeguard, then your fence needs to be a minimum of 5 feet, according to Councilman Catch's amendment. I will say that 4 feet, as Councilman Marks, I've seen lots of teenagers going after foul balls that don't climb the fence, that actually they hop the fence, and it seems quite easy for teenagers with the agility that they have. And if they have to, and to Councilman Crandall's point, then you may be right about the standards, then 6 feet is even a safer environment. We're having a pool secured.
I'd like to amend the amendment, Madam Chair,
Okay.
to make it at least 5 feet.
Okay.
And that way, if it's cheaper to put up a 6-foot fence, then they can do it.
it does say,
Councilman Quirk, did you have a question? I'm sorry, you've been waiting.
Yeah, question for Mr. Bostwick is, do we have any current pool fence height regulations already on the books for pools?
yes.
Yes.
What-
Currently, a pool, a swimming pool in general, has to have an enclosure that is not less than 4 feet.
Okay, so not less than 4 feet. And Councilman Crandall's right. I mean, I just Googling on the computer, normally these fences are either 4 feet or 6 feet, but I haven't seen one that's
Councilman Quirk, I was able to, in a quick search, just as you did, I was able to find some. It does seem that the more readily available are 4 feet or 6 feet fence in terms of, but apparently they are out there in the security fence market. But, again, I just go back to the existing pools that I can't think of where a 5-foot pool exists in Baltimore County that someone doesn't put on a commercial property, does not put something greater than a standard, what most people have, a chain link fence in their backyard with a pool, which is 4 feet. I just, most places that have outdoor pools have a higher security fence around their pools. One for privacy for
Right.
some, and another obviously is to keep people out. And I don't know. We have a 6-foot fence at our house, and I'm almost 6 feet tall. I can't climb that thing. It's not a chain link. There's no place to put your foot. It would be very difficult to get over a 6-foot fence. So.
Well, I'm just going to speak as a mother and a grandmother. I was always under the impression that fences were there to keep toddlers and small children from falling into the pools. I was never thinking about, kids jumping fences to get in the pool. I thought it was to protect smaller children if they got away from their parents or wandered off to, keep them from falling in. So I was on a whole different train of thought than you gentlemen talking about teenagers and getting over fences. So that's where I was.
That actually, if I may, Madam Chair, the statute dealing with swimming pool enclosures specifically states that that a person who owns land on which there is a swimming pool that contains at least 2 feet of water in depth at any point shall erect and maintain on the land an adequate enclosure surrounding either the property or pool area, and I think this goes to your point, sufficient to make the body of water inaccessible to small children. So that is the purpose of that statute dealing with enclosures. And the second thing I'll say is, and I probably misspoke when I was just trying to explain the amendments quickly, but the amendment does say, Mr. Catch's amendment, it does say it may not be less than 5 feet above the underlying ground. So someone could certainly make it higher than 5 feet if the amendment is passing.
Does the amendment that that's in front of us, Mr. Secretary, does that relate to the choice of having a lower fence or a lifeguard? Or is it irrespective of that?
It really was irrespective, Mr. Matoka, because I think one of the other members mentioned, even right now, where lifeguards are required and the pool enclosure is no less than 4 feet, persons who come after hours or even during hours, the lifeguard really isn't the issue. The issue is when they're closed, can people get in or can they get out? Or can they trespass and get in? And the thinking I thought was that whether it's that it's not the lifeguard that's the issue, but it's the semi-public pool that's outdoors that is the issue. So,
except that in this case, you're amending the law to lessen the requirements for having a lifeguard in a public pool.
Right, but that's not really, again, in my understanding, to the height of a fence, because when the pool is open and there isn't any lifeguard, we're not. I wasn't sure whether the members were really considering whether the fence needs to be higher or lower during those open hours, but it's really when the hours when the pool is not open that is of concern and of people trespassing. But I'll leave that to you all to debate.
Does anybody got any questions? I was looking just to see if there was anybody that had any questions. Let me take a look here to see if there's anybody from the industry that is listening that would like to make comments. Hold on one second. We got to pull it up. Let me see if there's anyone. I don't want to miss something. Of course, my intention of the bill was never to have public safety as an issue. And I think that, and Wade, I know I said that I was going to support you on this amendment, but it's interesting, the conversation that's now come about. And I wish, that's why I'm looking to see if there was anyone from the industry saying that they already have a 6-foot fence up, or they have, like, I remember I talked to one or two early on hotels that said they have cameras in their pool area. So someone at the front desk or the security, somebody would actually see if somebody got into the pool area. or wait, like you said, sometimes the hotels have the alarm systems. When the pools are closed, an alarm goes off as somebody hits the water. And the alarms go off and let the folks know, management know that somebody has entered the pool area after hours.
Yeah,
You're more concerned about after hours, correct?
Well, I'm concerned about any time that a lifeguard is not on duty, really. And I think most of it would happen though at night, I'm sure, when people would try to get in who shouldn't be getting in, but it also can happen when there's no lifeguard on duty as well. It's really both.
So I do have somebody asking a question. They don't have their name here. It just says, if the purpose of the bill is to bring the county into line with the other counties, why would we impose a stricter regulation on fence height?
I can answer that question
Okay.
because maybe the other counties aren't right.
Madam Chair,
Well noted. Councilman Jones.
I was just thinking, I was just flipping things around. Mr. Boswick gave me a good issue to think about. Now I don't think that this will be the case, but if it is to be that we pass the law to go in line with every other jurisdiction in the state, that you do not need a lifeguard for your pool to be open. Who's to say? I don't think this is the case, because I think the pool owners are more responsible. But who's to say that the pool would ever have to close? So what difference would it make how big the fence is if the pool, the gate is always open? Because they have to have a lifeguard.
I did have a chat when we did the work session, and I can't speak for all the hotels, but someone did come onto the chat and say that their hotel pool closed. I think it was the Hilton in White Marsh said that their pool does close at 10. Even with your key card, you cannot get in. The pool's closed at 10.
And I talked with somebody who was talking about their insurance.
Mhm.
Their insurance putting requirements that the pool close at a certain time and not open before a certain time. So I don't think it's uniform, but some insurance does require it.
But there's not a lifeguard there when they're closed, whether it's between 10 p.m. and 8 p.m. There's not a lifeguard there anyway. So I don't understand, the whole thing with the fence, there's no one using the pool to begin with, because it doesn't matter. This bill is about when a lifeguard doesn't show up, that the public can still use the pool. It's not about when the lifeguard is not on duty after hours.
Well, that's a whole different subject then. If we're talking about if the lifeguard didn't show up for work,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think this bill says that.
Yeah, that's the purpose of the bill. The hotel industry in Baltimore County,
Right?
the law that is still in effect only in Baltimore County in the state of Maryland, says that if you do not have a lifeguard on duty, you cannot open your pool. And so any of these hotels cannot, or whether it's, a health spa, whatever the case may be, a pool down at a marina, within a boatyard, if the lifeguard doesn't show up, they have to close and they're not allowed to have anybody in the pool.
So this
In a 5-foot pool, adults cannot get in unless there's a lifeguard. And that's why I created the bill, because it's not fair to the public that because the lifeguard doesn't show up, that they can't get into the pool.
Madam Chair, the business practices of the hotel. So for example, if the cleaning staff didn't show up at that hotel, we wouldn't lessen the requirements of having a clean hotel. So I think the hotel industry needs to take care of itself if employees aren't showing up, and get employees that will show up. And so I think, that's incumbent upon any business. If
But that's
the guy who cooks French fries at McDonald's doesn't show up, they'll hire someone else to cook those French fries.
That's true, but for the most part, not all, but for the most part, our lifeguards are younger, they're high school students, they're college students, and they're in school. There's many opportunities for them in the summer and in the evenings, but the hotel industry, has a very hard time finding lifeguards to sit morning and afternoon and early evening. And then that means their pools are closed and their patrons are mad.
Madam
They
Chair,
don't go back, and they don't go back because they've had a bad experience. And when you look on the website for the hotel, it shows a beautiful pool. That's why you choose one hotel over another, because of the amenities. You pack the swimsuits up for the family. You get there, there's the pool right in front of you, and they say, sorry, we don't have a lifeguard on duty today. You can't swim. And it's not for children, that's for adults. So,
Madam Chair,
yes.
so what you're saying, okay, so with the bill passes, a hotel or motel then does not have to schedule a lifeguard to be on duty at all because of this bill, correct?
That's true.
That's true.
That's
But
true.
your intention, though, is that when the lifeguards don't show up, but
When you talk to the industry,
than
when I had these conversations at first with the industry, they said, well, we're not going to just do away with lifeguards. We don't want that risk, like Ocean City. Ocean City, they still have their lifeguards show up, whether it's a 4-foot pool, 5-foot pool, or has a deep end. But if one doesn't show up, they don't close their pools because, they have 150 people staying in the hotel who want to swim, and they're still allowed to do that. And there's a sign that says swim at your own risk. Lifeguard not on duty, must be 18 years old, accompanied by a parent. There's all these things put into place to say, but for me, being a grown-up, I would be able to enter the pool and get in the pool, whether it's an indoor pool or an outdoor pool, if there's no lifeguard. And I should be able to do that in 5 feet of water if I choose to. Yes, Councilman Jones.
Madam Chair, I've been, of course, to hotels where they, out of state, actually, where they had a rule where they had lifeguards there. But then at some point, the lifeguard notified everyone in the pool that I'm leaving. And if you want to swim, you will swim at your own risk. And they then, everybody knew that the lifeguard was leaving. And I personally, I understand. And I don't want to have anything. In fact, after Councilman Patoka mentioned the issue about a kid almost drowning, it was very tragic. I Googled it, I looked at it, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And it breaks my heart. But I do understand that particular case that we looked at, as bad as it is, I think that is an anomaly. I think most people are reasonable and intelligent, and they have a choice. And this is where, I wrestled with this bill because I remember the last time I was thinking to myself, to be quite frank, I don't want to be a part of some
Something goes wrong.
lifeguard killer bill. I don't want to do that. But then the more and more I think about it, people are smart and intelligent, and they have a choice. If they don't want to swim when there's no lifeguard, then they don't have to do it. If they choose to do it, then they swim at their own risk. And if they are responsible enough to say, I'm going to let my child swim, or I am going to swim, then okay. Far be it from us to somehow impose that, you're not smart enough. I mean, you're smart enough to drive a car. You're smart enough to incur all the risk you want by driving your car. But I can't trust you to make a decision whether or not you want to get in a swimming pool or not, because I don't have a lifeguard there. I guess for me, I thought about it an awful lot, and I just landed on the side of giving people the choice to do what they want to do as it relates to a swimming pool in a hotel or motel. most of them I go to, very rarely do I see many people in them anyway. But there you have it.
Madam,
Councilman Quirk?
thank you, Madam Chair. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think we're still talking about Councilman Cass's amendment. And question for everybody, or Mr. Bostwick or Councilman Cass, is just Googling, looking at this fence height. I'm seeing a lot of it, normally at least 48 inches. I mean, if Councilman Cass wants it 5 feet, I'm personally okay with that. But there's also something that says that these fences should not have the 2-inch gap from the bottom of the fence. Do we have that type of provision in this amendment? Mr. Bostwick?
He's looking.
I don't see the particulars of the fence in the statute, Mr. Quirk, only the height.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would offer a friendly amendment to Councilman Cass, and I would just say, hey, with this fence, let's put no more than a 2-inch gap from the bottom of the fence as well. Because sometimes if the gap is too much, it might inadvertently allow somebody to kind of crawl under it. And those are the little kids we want to make sure can't get through. So as long as everybody's okay with that, that would be a friendly amendment.
I accept it as a sponsor.
And Councilman Jones, just very respectfully, you know, as a former lifeguard myself, not everybody is intending to say, for example, get into a swimming pool and say you have a diabetic shock and then you drown. Matter of fact, a lot of drownings happen when somebody takes it upon themselves to swim alone and then dies and there's nobody to help them there. And so it's not all just about being voluntary or being responsible enough to make these decisions. Sometimes swimmers do have heart attacks, they have diabetic shocks, they're swimming alone, they have get into an issue. So it's not always just about a personal decision, respectfully.
Point well taken, Councilman Quirk. I agree.
So what will Mr. Councilman Catch's amendment be, the changes? I'm sorry.
Councilman from Quirk suggested that, amended the amendment to require that there be no more than 2 inches of gap between the fence and the ground, the bottom of the fence and the ground, correct? Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to
I'll move it.
move the second? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll on the second set of amendments for 11-20?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm just making sure I have the particulars. For the height, for the enclosure, we're talking that except for a semi-public swimming pool located outdoors without a lifeguard on duty, the enclosure, including gates, may not be less than 5 feet above the underlying ground and there may not be less than there may not be more than a 2-inch gap from the bottom of the fence to the ground. Is that right?
Sounds right.
Okay. Okay. All right, you want to call the roll on that, Mr. Secretary?
Ma'am, Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks.
Okay, both sets of amendments have passed for Bill 11-20. Is there a motion to move 11-20 as amended?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll on Bill 11-20?
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
No.
Mr. Patoka,
Nay.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Bill 11-20 as amended is passed. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Bill, Madam Chair, is Bill 20. This is a bill sponsored by Councilman Quirk. Zoning regulations, uses permitted in residential office and office zones.
Councilman Quirk, do you have any remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, one thing for sure, especially given this coronavirus, is landlords are going to be, put it lightly, really struggling for tenants, especially in retail. And there's generally a fair amount of consensus on this bill to basically allow tags and licensing to be permitted in the RO zone. And so that's all this does. I mean, Mr. Boswell, I don't know if you want to add some color to that or not, but I haven't heard one person in opposition to this. And if anything, I think as a county council, we should be looking for other things we can do to help these landlords, because they're about to lose a fair amount of their tenants, unfortunately, given the coronavirus putting significant pressure on small businesses. So this is something I'm not aware of any opposition, but appreciate everybody's consideration.
Are there any comments or questions for Councilman Quirk? Is there a motion to move Bill 12-20?
So moved.
You don't need a motion or a second. There's no amendment.
Oh, okay, very good. Very good. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
So we have to.
Oh, I'm sorry, we need to vote. Sorry. Can you please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Very good. Bill 12-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill, these are the emergency bills that were on the 31st in succession. Bill 22-20 is entitled Temporary Authority to Accept Non-Monetary Donations Emergency Measure.
Do we have a motion?
I believe Mr. Blades is here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Blaze. I'm sorry, Ed.
Chairwoman Bevins, you are more than welcome to jump to a vote if you like.
I'm sorry. Do you have anything to say?
I would just say, sure. Bill as a temporary authority to accept non-monetary donations. Under the current law, the county administrative officer notifies the council of certain classes of non-monetary gifts. The council then has 14 days to decide whether it wishes to have a gift brought forward as a resolution to accept the gift. If the 14 days passes without any such indication, the county administrative officer could then accept the gifts. This legislation proposes that the county administrative officer be granted the right to accept the gifts without complying with the provisions of the code for the duration of the local state of emergency. She will also be able to delegate this authority if necessary and prudent. And she will also, or the county will also provide the council with a log of donations and disclose what the donations were for within the 30 days after the end of the local state of emergency. This is a temporary measure to allow us to accept gifts of masks, sanitizer, all kinds of things under the COVID emergency or pandemic.
I'll move the bill.
Okay, second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 22-20.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Yes, I just heard a dog in the background.
That's mine.
What is this?
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Bill 22-20 is passed. Mrs. Secretary, next bill, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. We greatly appreciate it.
Welcome. Ed, are you going to testify on this one as well?
Yes, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, could I do the next three together?
Yes, I was going to ask if we could do that. Yes, please.
Bill 23-20 is COVID-19 donations emergency measure. Bill 24-20 is COVID-19 federal funding emergency measure. And Bill 25-20 is COVID-19 state funding emergency measure. These will have to be voted on separately, of course. Don't need a motion or a second, but Mr. Blades is here to elaborate on that.
Okay, Mr. Blades.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill related to donations is a supplemental appropriation intended to complement the Baltimore County COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund that will be managed by Baltimore Community Foundation. It will accept any unforeseen donations that the Baltimore Community Foundation may not be able to accept. And should an individual or entity wish to donate directly to local government, it also provides that opportunity. And the dollar amount of $500,000 is just an estimate. And should we be in a position where we need to exceed it, we would come back to the county council for additional authority.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, is there an amendment to Bill 2320?
You're right, Madam Chair. There are amendments, so we will need a motion in second. My mistake. There are amendments to all three of the remaining bills. Bill 23-20, there's language in the purpose paragraph dealing with acceptance of goods and services that may be donated. That was really for the bill you just passed. There was a talk, I believe, when they were being drafted, of doing both 22 and 23 in one bill, and then the administration decided to separate them. But the language in 2320 that says in the purpose paragraph for the acceptance of goods and services that may be donated, and in one of the whereas clauses that says, well, no, and that's it. So they're striking that language in the purpose paragraph. And then in the third line of the fifth whereas clause after May, they are inserting accept gifts and grants to specify that power of the county council. And then on page 3, at the end of the bill, they would insert a section that is similar to the end of Bill 22 that requires certain information such that the director of finance shall keep a log of all gifts and grants received with certain information, including the identity of the donor, the date that it was made, the amount, and the reason for the gift, and the office or department within the county that benefited from the gift. And this, similar to 22, this log would be disclosed to the council no later than 30 days after the end of the local emergency. So that's the crux of amendment for 2320.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and I'm happy to move that. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Secretary, would you please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 2320?
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Matoka?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Okay, the amendment passes. Are there any questions or comments from the members?
Madam Chair.
Hey, we can see you.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to ask for recognition, maybe a clap or something, that I finally figured out how to work the camera. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, my.
Little length is better.
Is there a motion to approve Bill 2320 as amended?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 2320 as amended.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Matoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk? Jones?
Aye.
Okay, the bill is passed. I'm sorry, hold on, wait a minute. Bill 2320 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
The next bill is 24-20, and this is dealing with the potential federal funding and is an emergency measure, and there is an amendment to this bill as well. This would, again, on page 2, in the third line of the fifth whereas clause, after May, it would insert accept gifts and grants And again, this just specifies that the council's authority to accept gifts and grants. And the substantive amendment really is at the end of the bill, where it seeks to strike $3.5 million and substitute up to $10 million.
I'm happy to move it.
Second.
Okay. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 24-20.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Foca?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
The amendment to Bill 24-20 passes. Are there any questions or comments from the member?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know that you were on the bill today, on the conference call today,
Yes.
as well as Councilman Crandall. I'm not sure if anyone else had an opportunity to be on the conference call.
I know the Councilman Parks was.
Sitting senators, but I thought it was very, very helpful, and it was much appreciative that they took the time to bring us up to speed on all the federal government's efforts during this pandemic. And I guess wanted to take an opportunity to publicly acknowledge them and thank them for the conference call.
Yes, thank you for saying so. I very much appreciated it. I didn't feel very positive. I felt more positive after speaking to the senators and knowing that they are advocating on our behalf for the state of Maryland, and know that it was not easy for them in Washington, and that they really had to push to get some final things through for the citizens of, especially for Baltimore County. So I'm very appreciative as well.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I was on the call as well, and I just want to thank Senator Cardin and Senator Van Hollen, echoing Councilman Jones's comments. It also was encouraging that not only were Baltimore County Council members on the call, but also our colleagues from Baltimore City and from Howard County. So this is our neighborhood, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and Howard County. And so it was encouraging that we're working together using our federal resources. And I thought that our congressional delegation did a great job in supporting the three counties that were on the call today.
I agree. And I thought it was remarkable that whether they were calling from Baltimore City or we were talking amongst ourselves from the county or Howard County, that we all really had the same concerns about the food inventory, for one, that was very important, and how this is going to affect small businesses and just the day-to-day lives of people. It's going to get worse over the next 2 weeks, and we really need to not sugarcoat it and tell people that it is going to get worse over the next 2 weeks and to be prepared. So I appreciated the frankness of both Senator Cardin and Senator Van Hollen, and letting us know what our battle is going to be over the next 2 weeks. So, and I know they're very, very busy, so I appreciated the call as well.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Yes.
I echo all your comments. I also thought the meeting with the Economic Advisory Committee was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was the best meeting I've had with that group in 10 years on the council. Very good, very frank discussion. The bottom line is we are in for some very difficult times, and we really need to be setting expectations. And I just wanted to commend everyone involved with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, as Councilman Jones mentioned, I too was on that conference call and attended the conference call with the Economic Advisory Committee this morning as well. And it just struck me, especially with the call with the senators, as a Republican on the council and a Republican at heart, don't always agree with our senators on a lot of different policy issues. But this, and it was clear in the call today, this is no time for partisanship. I don't think that we do anyone a service by bickering along partisan lines. And to its credit, this council has not done that, and our county executive has not done that when it comes to the COVID-19 response from local government, and our senators are doing what they can to help us out and our constituents. I think that we learned today that Baltimore County can expect, Mr. Blades, correct me if I'm wrong, but all said and done, phase 3 stimulus, we're looking at maybe a total of 200 million or so, if you count the 150 in the one package and 38 from for the schools. So the federal help is coming, and there were some news today as well on some help for those who are facing unemployment, many people for the first time in their lives. And the stimulus package helps address those people who find themselves unemployed and are maxed out at $150 a week. The state qualification, the stimulus package offers $600 more a week on top of what they would qualify for the state. So we learned that today on that call with Senators Cardin and Van Hollen. But again, the bipartisanship that I think this council has shown through this, and that in working together with a Republican governor, Democratic General Assembly, the differences that exist in Washington, they're all aware of. This is something we've never faced before, and it's all hands on deck. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I was very surprised to hear about that $600. And I got to tell you, that is really going to make the difference, whether somebody loses their home, their apartment, if they're going to become homeless, because a lot of our citizens are 1 or 2 paychecks away from homelessness. And I think that $600 is going to make a great deal of difference. So I'm very grateful for that. Mr. Blades, you had a comment?
Yes, I did. Councilman Crandall is correct. As far as it's 144.4 in the coronavirus relief fund, and then when you add the other school-related money, we do get up close to 200 million. And we are working diligently as a team. You know, obviously we're trying to pull the budget together, but we're also working to look at all the grants that are out there and what we will be eligible for, so we can maximize our requests for reimbursement of expenditures. And as Dr. Branch always likes to do, receive more than 98% of any grant reimbursement. So we are going to be aggressive in our pursuit of these funds. But I also want to go back to Councilman Marks, your comment on the economic development meeting this morning, or the economic advisory board. There was a comment made about whether or not us going to 10 million for this federal bill was going to be sufficient, because the intent is, we're setting this grant up for federal funds until we identify all the federal funds we're getting, and then we're going to come back to you for an appropriation for the full amount and a strategy for it. So I'm hopeful that the 10 million is enough money as far as to get us to where we are, to the point coming back for an additional supplemental. But if you all want to increase it, I'm not opposed to it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I'd like to be recognized.
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
We are absolutely going through every provision of the relief fund version 3. And we also have heard that there is a 4th provision coming. One of the things that we are promoting and encouraging to the delegation is that any support that can be given to local government in terms of the massive losses in revenue in our local operating budgets. Now, whether that will emerge in version 3 of the COVID relief funding, but we were advised that there is a 4th iteration coming, and we are hopeful that that will bring some additional relief. There are some HHS side benefits that we are working to make sure that constituents know about, and we're trying to push forward that information. The Department of Human Services sent out information about additional SNAP benefits that will be available to residents throughout Maryland, particularly here in our jurisdiction, and we're making every effort to push that information out.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Yes.
I would be remiss if I did not. I want to go back to the conference call today, and I guess wanted to take this opportunity to personally thank yourself as well as Councilman Crandall. We had a big audience on the conference call, and you guys represented Baltimore County very well. Were very thoughtful and intelligent questions. And I think it helped a lot of people on the line that you asked the questions that you did, and I think you represented as well. The second comment I would make is I feel very confident as we work through this issue. I have a tremendous amount of confidence in you, Ed Blades. I think your years of experience will come through. And same for you, Ms. Rogers. I think your years of experience working in the various governments will come through and help us to a great deal in terms of making sure we get every penny we can and that we maneuver this obstacle course as best we can so that Baltimore County can come out whole on the other end.
Thank you, Councilman Jennings. I appreciate those remarks. Anyone else before we move on? Mr. Secretary, did we actually vote on 2420 as amended?
Not yet. We just need a motion and a second.
Okay, I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 24-20 as amended.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Bill 24-20 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill 25 COVID-19 state funding emergency measure.
Last one, Mr. Blades.
All right, had to get myself off mute. This is the same as the federal bill, same dollar amount, same everything, but a different funding source. This is going to come from the state.
Okay, I'll move it.
And there's
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done, Mr. Blades? You were done, okay.
there's-
We have a second, so Mr. Secretary. Oh,
There's an amendment. There's an amendment to 2520. This is an amendment that is similar to the amendment you just considered on 2420. It, again, it inserts some technical language that enumerates the council's power to accept gifts and grants. And it also substitutes $3,500,000 with 10 million.
my apologies, and I'll move it.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 2520 as amended.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk, Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
2520 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Actually, that was the amendment,
That's it.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bill is amended.
I'm sorry,
I move the bill as amended, Madam Chair.
Second.
second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bevins,
Bill as amended.
Mrs. Bevins, Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Crandall,
Aye.
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Okay, Bill 25-20 as amended is passed. We now move on to fiscal matters. Extensive testimony was taken at the council's work session on March 31st, 2020. The witnesses who testified at the work session are available to restate their testimony if needed. If a council member has any questions regarding a particular fiscal matter, that item will be discussed as a separate matter. I will now call upon the secretary to read the cover letter, for fiscal matters 1 through 4.
Matter 1 is a contract with O'Brien and Gear Engineers Incorporated. Matter 2 is a contract with EBA Engineering. Fiscal matter 3 is a contract with Johnson Merriman Thompson Incorporated. And fiscal matter number 4 is a contract with Wilson T. Ballard Company. And all 4 of these contracts are related, you may recall from Mr. Walsh, they're related to the county's sanitary sewer obligation for design services.
Are there any questions or questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, if there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve fiscal matters 1 through 4?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 through 4.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Marks? I'm sorry, Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Fiscal matters 1 through 4 are approved. We'll now consider miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item.
Madam Chair, whenever a contract over $25,000 is awarded by a process other than by formal competitive bid, it is required that a copy of the contract be given to the county council and the nature and parties to that contract be announced by the secretary at the next legislative session following the award. There are 2 such contracts on the agenda this evening. First is with Automated Control Concepts Incorporated, the amount of $96,250. And the second is with Johnson and Towers Incorporated, in the amount of $600,000.
Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 34-20. This is an authorization for an application of grants with the Maryland Transit Administration, Maryland Department of Transportation.
Okay, and we have Ms. Laura Rowley to testify this evening? She is.
Here I am. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. This resolution permits the administrative officer of Baltimore County government to make application to the Maryland Transit Administration for funds to provide on-demand handicap accessible transportation. In essence, this is the traditional request we make each year to MTA for operating countywide.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from Ms. Rowley? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 34-20?
So
Moved.
Is there a
Second. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 34-20.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Patoka.
Aye.
Very good. Resolution 34-20 is passed. Thanks, Ms. Rowley.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, next item is Resolution 35-20. This is a resolution to endorse the application of the Patapsco Heritage Greenway Incorporated Maryland Heritage Area Authority amendments.
Thank you. And I believe we have Mr. Pete Gutwald to testify this evening.
Here. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. As you said, Resolution 35 is requesting your endorsement to the application by the Patapsco Heritage Greenway Organization to the Maryland Heritage Area Authority. The main part of this application is expanding the boundaries of the current Patapsco Valley Heritage Area from about 24.6 miles to 36.2 square miles. The proposed expansion will create a more holistic interpretation of the Patapsco Valley, support important recreation and environmental goals, and appeal to visitors. The area includes specific areas in Baltimore County of the Granite National Historic District, related historic sites, the Patapsco Valley State Park, as well as the Guinness Brewery, to name a few.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the members?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to just briefly thank Mr. Gutwald and the Department of Planning. The Patapsco Heritage Greenway is a phenomenal organization. They do a lot of work for the community. And I think these expansions make a lot of sense. And I'm not aware of any opposition at all in my district. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Quirk. Any other questions or comments from the members? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Mr. Secretary, did we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Please call the roll on Resolution 35-20.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Resolution 35-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, Resolution 36-20 is a resolution to accept a gift, State of Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services Emergency Numbers System Board.
And I believe we have Tammy Price to testify this evening. Where are you, Tammy?
I'm here, but I'm having video difficulty.
Okay, we can hear you.
Councilman Katz can help her out.
But we can hear you.
Help her out.
Somebody help her out? Okay. Yeah, Wade's gonna help you.
I'll help you out. Yeah. You have the rest of the night?
You know, it's been working fine all day. It's just because I'm here tonight, it's gonna act up.
That's the way it always goes.
I know, I apologize. But good evening, Madam Chair and council members. Resolution 36-20 authorizes the county to accept a donation of up to $222,500 from the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services and Emergency Number Systems Board for emergency dispatch protocol system maintenance and critical 911 specialist training software. Funds up to $216,000 are being provided to upgrade the support services for the emergency dispatch protocol system software. Our fiscal year 2020 budget includes $122,794 for the basic support level that we currently have. With the savings realized with this donation of upgrading to the platinum level, we would use that savings to cover an unanticipated expenditure for operational equipment maintenance for our call taker and dispatcher consoles. Additionally, funds up to $6,500 are being provided for software support for our 911 application testing system so that we can test applicants before they are hired. We must submit funding requests to the Emergency Number Systems Board for the annual support fee in subsequent fiscal years. We will be amending the current emergency dispatch protocol system software contract to enable purchase of the upgraded level of the software support. At the conclusion of the project, the county can request reimbursement from the Emergency Number Systems Board or request that the Emergency Number Systems Board pay the vendor directly. And as always, this donation is contingent upon availability of funds in the state's 911 trust fund, which is financed by the state fee assessed on individual phone bills.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the members for Ms. Price? Okay, is there a motion to approve Resolution 36-20?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 36-20.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Hatch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Resolution 36-20 is passed.
Thank
Ms.
you, council
Price.
members.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 38-20. This is a resolution sponsored by Councilman Patoka to authorize the property tax refund to Mr. John Forg, who, as a disabled American veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It is with honor that I move this motion forward.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 38-20.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Resolution 38-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is your consideration of the reappointments to the Baltimore County Adult Public Guardianship Review Board. The county executive names of Donald A. Gabriel and Judith R. Volkman for reappointment to the Adult Public Guardianship Review Board, subject to council confirmation. These appointees would serve the remainder of 3-year terms expiring September 30th, 2022.
Okay, normally I would ask if they were in the audience, but I'm guessing they're not. So, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointments.
I think we need a motion and a
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry, I'll move it.
Second.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Randall?
Aye.
The appointments are confirmed. Congratulations to Mr. Gabriel and Ms. Volkman. Next is Resolution 39-20.
Yes, ma'am. Resolution 39-20 is sponsored by Madam Chair. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund to Mr. Otis Thomas. As a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It's my pleasure to move it.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 39-20.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Resolution 39-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 40-20, the resolution to accept a donation from Baltimore County Public Schools for introduction only this evening.
Next item.
Is Resolution 41-20, resolution related to the Cycle 37 amendments to the Baltimore County Water Supply and Storage Plan for introduction only this evening.
Next item.
Watch it, Connor.
Is Resolution 42-20, sponsored by Councilman Marks, to amend the Parador Commercial Revitalization District for introduction only this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, is there any further business to come before the council?
There is no further business, Madam Chair.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. I think this was a very successful meeting. What do you think?
Right.
You did a great job.
Yeah,
Good job.
yeah. You were a little late to the party, but it's okay.
Well, it's all right. I made it.
Okay, and for all our, any listeners out there, I know it's a council's wish